we're going to be discussing the top 10 digital transformation trends for 2020, and we have 3 amazing leaders of digital transformation who are going to be sharing their personal and professional journeys with us, as well as asking your questions in real time. So we're going to have a full Q&A on this topic, and you're going to participate right away. So get ready to provide your questions to our experts directly by using the questions box that we just tried. So the topic is digital transformation trends moving very rapidly as we in this post-pandemic world. The underpinnings of digital transformation remain in the innovation and technology that allow companies to compete, differentiate, and outperform. When it comes to the technological side of digital transformation and trends for 2020, some things on this list you recognize, some may take you by surprise. Regardless, these are the top 10 picks for digital transformation trends for 2020. In no specific order. Number 1, 5G for you and I. Number 2, analytics as the competitive advantage. Number 3, AI and machine learning powering those analytics. Number 4, the privacy renaissance. Number 5, blockchain beyond crypto. Number 6, XaaS. For those of you who are not familiar with the terminology, is anything as a service, from cloud computing and remote access being delivered over the internet. Number 7, RPA, or robotics process automation. Number 8, conversational artificial intelligence. Number 9, ACPC heats up. ACPC is the always connected PC. And number 10 is a combination of driverless vehicles, drones, and smart cities. Very well. So with those as technologies as background, I would like to have our guests now join us. And I'm going to first start by introducing Umar Marshall. Umar Marshall is the global business leader for food and beverage and retail technology strategy for Marriott International. She has over 25 years of experience in product strategy, technology deployments, continuous process improvements, and operational excellence. Umar is a board member of 3 hospitality organizations. She has a BA in economics from Harvard, and she's also a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Umar, great to have you with us. You are self-muted right now. I'm going to unmute you. There you go. You're good. Great to have you with us, Umar.
Thank you. Great to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation this morning. Thank you. Or this day, it's afternoon, evening, wherever everybody is. So good to be here. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, Umar. Our next guest and panelist is Jay Bloom. Jay Bloom has been working to illuminate and improving the complex interactions between design, development, and operational excellence in organizations for more than 20 years. He's an experienced executive leader of software and product development companies, serving in numerous executive roles, including Chief Architect, Principal Technical Director, Chief Technical Officer, and Chief Social Technical Officer. Jay is part of the Red Hat Global Transformation Office, a consultancy that focuses on applying scientific and design research methodologies to enable exploration, increase flow, improve software engineering, and enable operational excellence. Jabe, we're glad to have you with us. If you're able to join with your camera, go ahead and turn your camera. If your camera is not operational, just go ahead and say hello from your audio, please. Hold on, because Jabe is on self-muted right now. Hold on, Jabe. Let me make sure that I unmute you.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, Jabe. Can you hear us?
Oh.
Hello, Jabe. Can you hear us?
Hi, this
All
is
right, I'm
Brian
not getting
Merklin. Sorry.
Jabe's audio right now, so we'll keep going here. Good, Jabe, I can hear you. I see on the chat that you can hear me, but we're not able to hear you. Let me see if I'm able to unmute you. It's not allowing me to unmute you, Jabe. I'm not quite sure why. Now it says that you're unmuted. Go ahead and say something, Jabe, so that we can test.
Can you guys hear me now? I apologize. Can you hear me? Hello?
A little choppy.
I could hear you, but your audio is very choppy. So do it one more try.
Hello? How are you guys?
Yeah, again, Jabe, I'm hearing you, but it's a little bit choppy. You may want to log off and log back on to see if that improves, because I can see now that you're not muted, but the audio is very choppy. All right, while Jabe is checking on that, I would like to introduce our third panelist today, and our third panelist is Brian Merklin. Brian has had the opportunity to impact multiple industries. He led the world's largest B2B online exchange, CommerceOne.net, and co-founded Webify, which was acquired by IBM. Today, Brian is the CEO and founder of Finnair, a company that has evolved digital transformation into an easy to consume and easy to deploy service. Brian, we're thrilled to have you with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to start with each one of you just providing a bit background on your digital transformation journey. And I want to remind the audience that as we do this, you can start right away asking your specific questions related to digital transformation. You have 3 global experts in this area who are going to share in a very open format their insights and guidance on digital transformation. So please make sure to take advantage of that. I'm going to be monitoring the questions box throughout the session, and I'm going to be relaying your questions directly to our experts. So Mara, I'm going to start with you. Share with us a little bit of your background and your own experiences with digital transformation pre-pandemic and of course during the times that we're living through right now.
Perfect. So I'll share my most recent experiences at Marriott. I've been in the role of being responsible for technology strategy for food and beverage. So it's like your bars, your restaurant, even retail and golf locations. Marriott has about 7,300 hotels worldwide. And that poses the challenge of some are managed, some are franchised. They are in all 130 different countries, so different cultures, different languages, different tax requirements. And when I took on this role, all our properties, our hotels, had on-premise food and beverage systems. So your point of sale, that's where we started. But so we took an evaluation of where we are, but the real starting point was, what does the customer really want, right? Marriott's vision is to be the best travel company, to be the equivalent of the Amazon in the retail space, becoming that in the hotel industry. But to have that vision, you really have to figure out what is going to make the customer really believe that, right? Amazon has created such incredible experiences that you don't even think about the money you're spending with them because the experience is so profound. So in the same way, we looked at what would the customer really want? And in my space in food and beverage, it really was just the customer wants to be able to order what they want, where they want, how they want it, and delivered in the manner that they want. But in order to do that, you really have to take inventory of, you have to start from your foundation, right? You have to lay down the right foundation in technology. You have to make sure you have the right pillars that can then support all this omni-channel experiences for the customer, and then continue to build off that in a platform manner. So first we took inventory. We realized we have a lot of on-prem systems. So not only would that not enable the digital transformation, it's also very inefficient in this day and age. And I mean, no offense to anyone that is still using on-prem systems, but it is something to start thinking about. How do we start becoming a cloud-based app? How do we have cloud-based enterprise applications? because all the benefits of like the Googles, the AWS, the Oracle, whoever you're using for your cloud solutions, the data mining, the machine learning, artificial intelligence, those benefits are really, really reaped when you have a cloud-based system, right? So, or I should say reaped better, more efficiently. So anyway, we looked around, we then laid down the foundation, and it was a pretty tough effort, because you have to first build the application, gain the alignment. First, you have to gain the alignment in the organization. Having multiple different owners and multiple different cultures was quite a Herculean task to get everybody aligned that this is the direction we're taking. But we did transform our entire food and beverage technology by laying down a single common cloud-based platform. We are using Oracle's products, and they do use the cloud service as well. And from that, we then started looking at phase 2. Phase 2 was the omni-channel experience. Now that we had laid down the groundwork, we started opening up, mobility, not just for the guest, but also what we call our associates, our employees, getting them away from big workstations, but giving them thin clients so that they can operate wherever they are, whether they're by the poolside, the restaurant, the bar, they're walking around and they're taking orders. But then enabling the guest experience so that they can order however they want, where they want, and delivered as they want. And then the third phase that we have been entering pretty rigorously is enabling other providers or our integrators, right, to come in and use API technology to get integrations done faster, cheaper, and offer a very wide menu of functionality to our hotel operators so that they can enable better experiences, customized experiences for the guests. So those are the three big phases that we have been working on pretty feverishly over the last few years. What I will say is that 2020 did throw quite a wrench in a lot of this. We've all had to shift, or we've all had to pivot, we've all had to figure out perhaps, and the one good thing is that we were already working on the right things, the contactless experiences, which is what a lot of the customers want. We can't say that every customer wants that, because we do still have different generations coming to our hotels, right? There are still people who want the white glove service. It's always a balancing act, but regardless, in 2020, we were moving forward with the same roadmap pretty feverishly till April. But then, as most people know, hotel industry has been hit really, really hard. It's starting to show some light again, some green is sprouting, which are really positive signs. But for 3 months in between, it was pretty dire. And so we had to pause a lot of the strategic work. The good news was we had already laid down the groundwork for mobile ordering, for mobile check-in, for keyless entry. So that really helped us. But for the last 3 months, we've had to pause a little bit on strategy. And what we are now starting to get back to is, just really accelerating that customer contactless experience so that they can view menus through their phone, through a QR code, so that they can continue to order through their own devices, or use, much like the grocery stores use the kiosks or other methods of ordering. But that's really where we are going in 2020. As you said earlier, it is accelerating, even though we paused for a few months just to get a financial house of this unexpected turn. It is accelerating the need to start towards the digital, towards making contactless enabled in a faster, better way.
That's an excellent perspective. Thank you for sharing that, Omara. Lots of you're right on your journey, and then certainly you had a major interruption in that journey. Brian, assuming that you can hear us okay, go ahead and provide your perspective on what you are, what path you're on with the organization and a lot of the clients that you work with on digital transformation, and how much the pandemic has impacted the plans you had and the directions you may have shifted.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can certainly echo what she just went through on her presentation. She hit a lot of the points that we were seeing with our customer base. Most of our customers are Fortune 500, so fit in the same area as Marriott, obviously, and we saw a lot of the same. Before the pandemic, what we were starting to see, Thin-Air's kind of inception was around making digital transformation easy and making it available as a service. And we were focused on machine generated data early on. So what we set out to do was allow you to digitally transform assets you already have. So for a candy maker, that could be a chocolate making machine that was installed in 1945. For an aerospace or a space agency, that may be manufacturing machines on the line and making the motors on those manufacturing machines smart and connected, along with locationing of people and things in their environment. What we were just starting to see before the pandemic is people were recognizing a new class of data where you combine machine-generated data with human feedback. And if you think about it, business processes, they aren't machines only, they aren't people only. You need data from both sides. And so we were, I would say, fast and furious down a journey of combining machine-generated feedback with human feedback and creating a new class of data. What we saw when the pandemic hit, lots of people had to make strategic shifts. And so those customers of ours who were considered critical businesses and who kept right on running, and we were lucky enough to have healthcare and DoD as major customers of ours. So for those industries, what we saw was a push, and your list of top 10 hit a couple of them. We saw a push to get to analytics faster, to reduce the friction and the time required to get to analytics. And we saw a push to apply AI and machine learning to those analytics faster and reduce the friction to get there as well. So what we've seen now with the pandemic is our customers want kind of the entire menu we provide. They want it easier, they want it faster. It's critical for them as they're battling to kind of stay alive in this new economy. It's critical for them to take this new class of data that we've created and analyze it and apply machine learning to it much faster. So that's what we've seen.
Very good, Brian. Thank you for that. Jabe, let's hope that you can hear us now. We're talking about the perspectives of the digital transformation pre and post pandemic here, and just if you could share a little bit of your journey and on digital transformation and how that may have shifted, with the current events.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead. It was a little bit choppy still, but go ahead so we can give it a test.
So we digital transformation, but how we are exploring thinking about technical systems or the way.
Yeah, Jabe. Yeah, it's not coming across. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. It's I can hear every other syllable that you speak. Unfortunately. So, Jabe, I'm gonna keep going here. I'm not sure why your audio is not coming through. I'm gonna go into a question from the audience now. Thank you, audience. I already see lots of questions coming in here. Please keep them coming. The first question comes from Rajesh Gopinathan, and Rajesh is asking our panelists, was there a specific strategy or framework you use in your digital transformation journey? How has that evolved for you? Was there a framework for your digital transformation journey? Let me start with you, Omar. How did Marriott approach that?
So it's a great question, by the way. The way it really happened was PCI compliance, right? We were with the on-prem systems. It was storing credit card information in the POSs. So kind of the PCI compliance requirement sort of forced us that we have to change our point of sale. And since we were making that change anyway, it was a pretty major change across 7,300 hotels. We took a step back and said, if we are going to make this change, what is the right direction that we should be going in, right? So that we're making this change as a small step to gaining something much bigger. So it took, to be honest, it takes a lot of conversations, but the first step is to really understand where will by the time you're done with this transformation, where will the customer really be? And just understand, looking at our industry, hospitality, to be really transparent and candid, hasn't really been one of the forerunners, right, in technology, to be really honest, right? Because hospitality has always been a service industry that's focused on more the human connection, right? So technology is critical, but it hasn't been the number one thing. So hence, we didn't really have very many great examples in the hospitality industry, but we did look outside. We did look at what were the trends? What were some other companies doing? And some food and beverage restaurant companies that are smaller, because smaller allows you to be more nimble, they were doing things a lot faster. And then we also spoke to we spoke to people in the industry. We spoke to a lot of our vendor partners to see what solutions were on their roadmap. Where do they think the industry was going? What was needed? And then internally, we spoke to a lot of our stakeholders. They were owners, they were our executives, they were the users, anybody. So taking all these different stakeholder groups, we sort of assessed, where do we really need to go? So then we worked backwards. In order to have these sort of experiences set up for the end users, but whether they were the guests or the associates, we worked backwards, and we first got to lay down this foundation of a cloud-based single platform, which gives us a competitive advantage, because initially we had 70 different POSs around the world. So can you imagine managing those is very difficult, and different vendor partners, different ways of managing, and the customer experience wasn't consistent. So how we started out was pretty straightforward. Like doing this stakeholder analysis across all those different groups, you first have to identify who are your different stakeholder groups. What are their needs? What will make them excited about this change? And then you kind of have to work backwards to say, what do I need to do to enable all those experiences? And it took us, I think 3 years it was before we were even before we can even go to market with our deployments, right? So that's good. And I'll tell you something, there's an incredibly great book if you haven't read it. It's by Harvard Business Review has published it, but this is a professor at Harvard Business School called Driving Digital Strategy. I don't know how many people have read it, but if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. I think it was written like 2-3 years ago. But the book is written in a very simplistic manner. It gives you great examples of Amazon, of Google, of even the Weather Channel, and a lot of these different companies, and how they have gone about this transformation, and how did they think about it. Like the Weather Channel. Sorry if I'm digressing. You can please stop me if I'm going too much. But I love to talk about this topic. But they talked even about the Weather Channel and how did they go about. They used to be a TV channel, right? And then they sort of started seeing a decline. People started using their phones to get the weather, and they would spend just a few seconds on just looking at the weather. So they realized that wasn't the way they were ever going to compete and make money. What they went into was actually understanding what does the customer want to know about the weather, right? All the different things. So they started getting into the business of setting up a platform versus just here's your weather by the hour, or weather by the week, or weather by the month. And that's how they transformed the business. But anyway, read the book. You'll see a lot of good examples. For Marriott, our journey and our framework was pretty much starting with the stakeholder groups, understanding what is it that they would want, going backwards and figuring out what are the different phases we need to implement. So like I had said earlier, we did it in 3 phases. Phase 1 was looking at this single platform, which will enable us the efficiencies that we want from a cost perspective, from a deployment perspective, from a support perspective. We put that in place. That was phase 1. Phase 2 was enabling the omni-channel experiences for our customers. And then phase 3 is now taking that product and making it into an ecosystem. So integrations with your inventory and supply chain, integrations for your reporting, right? Where we use best-in-class companies like Avero, Looking at your payment systems, who do you want to integrate with in your payment system category? So on and so forth. But we did it in 3 phases. If that doesn't answer your question, please feel free to connect with me either here or separately, and I'm happy to walk you through more details.
No, very good. I think that paints a good picture, Mara, for us. Brian, give us your perspective. You do this across multiple organizations. So interested on what is the typical framework or strategy that you employ with those organizations when you're doing a digital transformation journey?
Yeah, well, there were 2 parts of Rajesh's question. He mentioned strategy and framework. And what we saw, especially early on, the extent of most customers, and these are Fortune 500 companies too, the extent of most of their digital transformation strategy, even if they had digital transformation titles in their companies, directors or VP of digital transformation, what we saw was the extent of their strategy was we want to be able to capture data from our machines and from our people, and we want to cleanse the data. That was kind of that was everybody's end goal. What we did was we brought a platform in. So we do have a platform that turns all of that into an easy to deploy service. Once we get in there though, we have the complete end-to-end solution for them. So the strategy should be more than I just want to capture data and cleanse it. What do I want to do with the data? How do I apply analytics? How do I apply machine learning to the data that I capture? So we actually have the upfront strategic consulting that we bring in and help them with it. And most of our customers' eyes opened quite quickly, and they saw the breadth of what they could accomplish with digital transformation. Once they learned that there was technology out there, it was readily available that could help them go ahead and improve and update and replace business processes. Once they captured the data, once they analyzed the data, and once they had some feedback that they could begin to work with. And so, yes, our platform was quite important. In the beginning, it's become even more important today. Some of the AI, some of the machine learning is actually right in line in the platform. So you don't have to go out and ramp up huge organizations of your own with that talent base. Some of it's readily available in our platform, and then we have the back-end consultants that we can wrap around the solution for you and make that journey much faster and much more effective for your company.
Very well. Jabe, let's give it another shot at you there. I saw your camera coming on momentarily. Let's do a quick check to see if your audio can come through.
You guys now?
Yes.
I can see you well, but your audio is still a little choppy. Go ahead and say something else.
How are you guys this morning? I hope you're more than me.
Again, Jabe, I'm not sure what's going on because I see you clearly right now, but your audio comes in like in segments only. We cannot hear your full sentences. Sorry about that, man. We'll reconnect a little bit later today. So I'll go on to the next question here, and the next question comes from Anna Martinez, and this is an interesting question. She's asking about how did you overcome resistance to implement these new technologies within the organization? Was it a top-down approach, and how did you deal with that resistance to new technology? And on this one, I want to start with you, Brian. Give me your perspective on what you see in the marketplace with resistance to these new technologies, and what you have seen are the best, most effective ways of approaching that resistance.
Yeah, that's a great question, and certainly COVID-19 has impacted how people are reacting to the message. When we started this 2.5 years ago, we were still teaching people what digital transformation meant, and we were doing a lot of educating. But I mentioned earlier, we're actually seeing titles today in organizations around digital transformation. So we're less educating now, and we're dealing with her exactly what her question is. How do we get past the resistance? And so what we did early to get past the resistance was we turned it into an easy to consume service and an affordable to consume service. And if you think about the fact that most people's view of the world as simply just capture data and cleanse it. We can package that fairly affordably and get them started down the journey. What we see once they get into the journey, they learn what can be accomplished by the data. What we start to see then is the tentacles of digital transformation start to reach out into other parts of the organization. That's where you start to see most of the resistance. People that have been in their own bubble, don't know about conferences like this, don't know that there is a full industry out there and that the technology has started to mature around digital transformation. So I would say the resistance today is more around just the lack of budgets caused by the COVID-19 crush. And so then you've got to compete and you have to be ready to prove why there's value. So coming in with a platform and a price for your platform as we used to, showing them how the costs ramp up as you add new devices and as you capture more human feedback. Those days are gone. The budgets are so tight today, we have to come in with full solutions, like we have a new contact tracing solution that combines machine-generated data and human feedback. Then we apply machine learning to the data that comes back to tell you where you've got contact around a virus or some type of an infection. So we have to come in with the solution, with the business benefits up front today, where in the past there was such an appetite for the tech and such an appetite to transform their organization. We could come in and have a technical conversation. Today it's much more a business conversation.
That's great insight. Definitely the landscape has shifted significantly. A bit of commentary here, but working on the energy space specifically has been a majority of my experience. And in that sector, very traditional organizations who have been on a digital transformation journey for 5 years. And as you work through those hierarchies in the organization, you have, the attorneys saying that we cannot do these things because of this implication. And you have the risk management people talking about, the risks associated with certain technologies and so on and so forth. And and some of our clients who have been on a digital transformation journey for 5 years without really fully implementing it, then we had COVID. And in 5 days, they implemented the whole thing because they had to just stay current. So there has been a bit of a mixed blessing with a burning platform for everybody. Umar, what about you? You're dealing with a system there that, my goodness, there is so many cultures and subcultures within the organization, and you're implementing new technologies as part of your digital transformation journey. And I expect that you're going to get resistance from those deployments. If you could confirm whether that's the case or not, and then how you deal with that resistance as you try to advance the journey.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly great question. And no matter how big or small change is, it is met with resistance, because if change isn't understood, it can be a scary thought. And in our case, this change was of great, of great scope. And the most important thing, I think, is understanding your different stakeholder groups and what would connect for them, like what would make sense for them. How do they value? And then you have to show that, demonstrate that the value, right? For instance, in the platform, like you said, different cultures, different owners of hotels are motivated by different things, right? Some might just want to say, I just want a cash register and I don't care for this omni-channel experience. I just want to make money. But I think it's, and we do encounter that, but at the end of the day, for us, it was about really understanding who those different stakeholder groups were and what would value mean to them, because we didn't want to go about putting a change in place because we wanted it. We wanted it because it made sense for our guests and also our associates. So it was really connecting those dots and bringing what was important. If importance to hotels are guest satisfaction, right? That the guests are really happy that you are creating the experiences that they expect, and maybe even going above that, wowing them. Guest loyalty will come from that. And of course, at the end of the day, all businesses want to make money. So for us, it was, and also cost efficient, having cost efficiencies, which is both top line and your costs. So for us, the way we met that resistance was showing them what value that this platform was going to bring, how this omni-channel experience was not only going to enhance guest satisfaction, but also increase revenues. Because it is known, right? If a guest has the ability to order through their own device, your average check, so average check is basically, you know, the language we use in food and beverage, but it's really the amount of money that a guest will spend is significantly more than if they're waiting to flag a server to place orders. So those were the dots we connected for our different owner groups, even internally. Like, for instance, you brought up the legal team, right? For them, what was most important? It was to have a secure system. It was a system that was PCI compliant, had better security oversight, which we do by having it be above property managed, right? One instance, globally, single platform, cloud-based, we have the ability to provide better security. We are able to proactively look in and see what's going on and fix it before it becomes an issue. And in the food and beverage space, you will not have heard of any security breaches ever since we've deployed this platform. So that's how we do it. We speak, we understand the stakeholder group we're going to present to, and you have to understand the language that will make sense to them. What will they perceive as value? And then you have to show the data points to validate that case. And then what we also do is this. I think it's a pretty straightforward. And think big, start small. So experiment with a small group of properties, get it out there, get some successes, and then have the ability to scale fast. So those are some of the things that convert people who give you a lot of resistance into believers. Now, that doesn't mean every time I go out with a new or a revised roadmap or new technologies that I don't encounter resistance. We do, because things cost money. And like you said, in this environment today, companies are financially strapped. And if they aren't financially strapped, they are financially more conservative, because they don't know what the fall will bring and what this dominoes effect is going to be, maybe even into Q1 or Q2 next year. So they are really holding on to their wallets much tighter. But in the hotel industry, for us, it's become evident that people, sitting inside in restaurants is going to be a challenge. Going to bars is going to be a challenge. And we don't want to put people in an unsafe environment by coming in and not wearing masks or sitting too close to each other. For that reason, mobile or ordering through your mobile devices is going to be so much more important. So we have accelerated that. We may not spend money on some other strategic efforts, but we are going to invest in these areas so that the guest and associates are most comfortable doing these. So again, I hope that answers your questions about resistance. You will encounter resistance, but really know your stakeholders, know who you're presenting to, what does value mean to them, and bring data points to validate and showcase how you are adding value.
Yeah, very good. A follow up to that, Omar, I'll stay with you on this one. Aaron Gonsalves, you already addressed some of this, but he was talking about experience implementing technology across regions and globally, and the resistances that you get. Is there anything that stands out from you from a global implementation perspective, be it because of different cultures or other factors that are there any unique resistance factors when you think about this global deployments in your experience?
Absolutely. So in our experience, and this is not true for every company, but in our experience, what we notice is in North America, we have been very much like implementations are very spoon-fed. They need to be very, very, very specific. So it's spoon-fed, it's controlled and managed by corporate. In some other continents, for instance, Asia, there is a lot of focus on cost, right? Let's do it the cheapest possible way. And that doesn't mean you cut corners and you compromise quality. But they also have resources, their own resources, who are able to do it, which helps us reduce cost. But it's really, for us, was understanding, and those owners there in Asia particularly sometimes trust local companies more than a North American company that might be trying to do, let's say, implementations in your example. So there where we do look at, if we are not losing our battle, we want to win the war. We're not looking to win every single battle, because you won't. We're wanting to look at winning the war, which is a good platform, enabling this omni-channel experience. So if an owner is dead set on, we really need to use, Asia specific implementers, we evaluate that. That might actually be a gain for us, and it typically is, because in some ways we might be not be benefiting from the economies of scale by having one provider who does the implementation, but we might be gaining in the ways that they have better cultural knowledge. They can close the barriers of language, right? They might actually, in some cases, they're actually cheaper because of the currency conversion, right? We do evaluate that. We do let our partners and our owners, or whoever our stakeholders are, believe we are really partnering with them. While we do have brand standards, our approach tries to be not this top down. We've asked you to do it, so you must do it. Because while that serves a benefit, perhaps it's a very myopic short-term benefit. To have a long-term relationship with your partners, you need to have that conversation. You need to say, this is why we are doing it. Why is it specifically important to you in Asia to have your local provider, local implementers do it? You also, because there's always a learning. We think we might know, being a global company, we don't know everything. We learn from the boots on the ground, right? And you have to really have a finger on the pulse with the boots on the ground to understand why they operate the way they do, what makes them tick, and how is that landscape changing? And then you really partner with them. It's always a give and take for the greater good. As long as you have common goals that you're trying to achieve, sometimes you might have to shift your strategy a little bit to gain for the longer run. So the specific cross experience has been in Asia. They do like people more locally who are doing business. There's a trust factor. Cost is a big factor for them. In Europe, what we realized was they want to take it, they want to run with it on their own. And so we have learned, and a lot of it is over time, we have learned by making mistakes, we surface them very transparently. We have built that trust. So we make mistakes, but we surface them transparently. We learn from them. We document what we learn. Sort of what you learn in the agile method is when we quickly move forward from that by working like this with different continents. We have learned the nuances, and we've learned to adapt. We've learned to give and take. And from that, we have established a much healthier trusting relationships. And I tell you, it hasn't come easy. It takes time. It takes time to build those relationships.
Brian, tell us a little bit about Finnair and the work you're doing on a global basis. Do you what? And we have a very global audience today for this talk. And I'm curious about what you have experienced from a global perspective on your deployments.
Yeah, so we actually saw, I would say the impact we saw was more geopolitical. What we do is very global by nature. There are 200 billion connected devices in the world today, and we strive to make all of them work with our platform, or make all of them easy to integrate with our platform. And so we buy sensors from all over the world. And as COVID-19 has impacted the world and the economy, and our country, when I say that, I mean the United States and China, were already engaged in a trade war anyway. So we were already seeing tariffs on a lot of the sensors and the parts that we would bring in to digitally transform people's machines. With COVID and the uncertainty of what will happen with that trade war, where it may go, we've had a big push to see where else sensors may be sourced from. And so where we used to, I would say before COVID-19, 90% of our sensors came from China. But I would say today, now they're starting to come from Taiwan, and believe it or not, Canada. I would say probably 50 to 60% are coming from Taiwan and Canada now. So we saw more from a geopolitical standpoint. The place we did see the impact even prior to the pandemic was security, because we do manufacturing in the DoD and the aerospace industry. So security is at the highest level there. And anytime you go outside the borders of the United States, security requirements change, and they're extensive. So in the DoD space, where we have a number of customers, a security review may take 8 to 12 months. And so as you're trying to expand globally, that can take a lot of time, and there are a lot of cycles to getting through the security protocols.
Excellent, very, very interesting. So we have a minute left here, and I'm gonna take another global question here from Christopher Cosgrove. So if you could, each of you could summarize in about 30 seconds. What Christopher is talking about is that the British National Health Service, the NHS, implemented telemedicine in 2 weeks with COVID-19. Without the burning platform, you would have taken over 2 years to do the same thing. So his commentary is that we need to capitalize on the current openness to change, otherwise we'll revert to typical timelines for these types of changes. So there is tremendous opportunity right now. So he wants a quick, how do we capture this capacity to change in our culture right now? 30-second message, what would you do to capture this built-in capacity to change right now? Go ahead, Umar.
I think so. I just think that's a really brilliant question. It is human nature to revert back to being more relaxed. But I think the thing is, if your deployments are working really well, like for us, we're trying to go out the gate very fast. We've got to keep that momentum and just don't relax. Just get it done as best as you can. You might meet resistance along the way, but just don't stop on this momentum just because things are changing around you. I'm just still thinking about the question and the thought you just said. I think that's exactly the right way. Is we need the learning. Sorry, I'm going over the 30 seconds probably. But my whole thing would be just maintain the momentum as best as you can. Just blaze forward.
Yeah, capitalize on it. Well done, well done. Brian, final words on that. How do you capitalize on this ability to and capacity to change right now?
Yeah, it is a brilliant question, and we've been actually focused on that for the last 3 to 4 months. So we have made changes to our platform so that it can be deployed in minutes and hours, and we literally deployed a space agency in 2 hours one afternoon and 2 hours the next afternoon, and they were live. So being able to deploy quickly, being able to define milestones along the way, so you have quick wins to show, those are going to be key to keep the momentum.
Terrific. Umar and Brian, so grateful for you to have the privilege to have you here, share your global perspectives with us and your leadership perspectives with us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this segment of Digital Transformation Workplace Live. Our next segment starts at the top of the hour, and you do not want to miss that. We're going to talk about human connectivity and the missing ingredient in digital transformation. A couple of experts discussing how you bring this human element to a very successful digital transformation. So we're going to close the session now. There you have an ability to provide feedback on the pop-up window on this segment of the conference, and we'll see you back up at the top of the hour. So thank you, and see you back soon.
Okay.